You always see the checkered board floor in music videos. To understand symbolism, you need to understand consciousness. Freemasonic symbolism is how to gain enlightenment. This symbol is called the Freemasonic Royal Arch, consisting of a left pillar, the masculine sun. This represents our physical actions, our left logical brain, and the right pillar with the moon, the feminine pillar. This represents the darkness. The moon is in the night, which represents what we cannot see, which is our internal world of thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. It represents the right brain also. In order to achieve enlightenment, you must rise above division, the black and white checkerboard, internal division, where your actions, left pillar, do not align with your internal guidance system, because emotions guide us through this life. They tell you what is right and what is wrong. When your consciousness is divided and not singular, you have internal contradiction. Your emotions are telling you to study, but your actions are scrolling on TikTok. That's the division, the internal chaos. This is when you are weak and your mind is useless and you're being moved by the chess master. This is a chessboard because the chess master has higher awareness, the elites. They understand how consciousness functions. So to unify the left pillar with the right, we must act with our physical body what our emotions are telling is right all the time. And this combines and builds a bridge from the left and the right, combining the left brain and the right brain, the internal world with the external world. And you gain light, higher understanding. The all-seeing eye is an eye. Your physical eye requires light to perceive things in the world, but the single eye represents the mind, and the mind requires light, which is knowledge, to perceive the world correctly. And you can't understand yourself if you are left hemisphere dominated or right hemisphere dominated and stuck in this division. You can't understand consciousness when your perception of the world is in this chaotic state. Your soul guides you through emotion, and it's guiding you towards your life purpose and awakening. You need to align the action, the masculine, with the internal emotional guidance, and you sync the two, gaining higher awareness, which is what enlightenment is. In order to escape reincarnation, the Egyptians are telling us through symbolism. This was not meant to be taken literally, nor was this a real person. It's all symbolism. Today, we use symbols such as letters to create words. These symbols we use are to represent sound vibrations we make with our mouth. However, the ancients were the opposite. They used different symbols to represent different thought forms and different levels of consciousness and various aspects of life. Here we see Anubis. Anubis is the ancient Egyptian god of the dead. Now, he was not a real god, but he represents death, an aspect of life that we will go through. Anubis depicted with these scales. On the left, we have a heart. On the right, we have a feather. And these scales are equal. They are balanced. This is an instruction for when we die, because consciousness is for eternal. Because consciousness is eternal. Our physical body is mortal. So the instructions are telling us to make our heart to be as light as a feather. Our heart represents our consciousness, our soul. Most people die with a very heavy consciousness. Their mind, their emotions are still attached to worldly things. They still desire money, fame while they die. And when we die in this state, our consciousness is very heavy, still having many attachments to our heart, which is the reason why many people reincarnate. Because in order to pass on to the afterlife, to the astral plane, and to ascend to higher realms of the astral, you have to give up the worldly pleasures of the physical material world. Because in that plane, you cannot fulfill your physical desires, and you will suffer if you cannot fulfill them. And you'll end up reincarnating back to the physical plane. So in order to ascend, your consciousness needs to be as light as a feather. Just like the emerald tablets of Thoth tell you, each soul is weighed as to its light. If found heavy, it must return to the lessons of the earth. If found light, it passes into freedom. The freedom is the astral plane, where you can think and manifest anything at the click of a finger. Whatever you think, you manifest. It's the plane of imagination, that screen in your mind. Your imagination is your biggest tool for when you die. The third eye is not your pineal gland. It is not this gland inside of the human brain. People think that when they become awakened to their consciousness and they become self-aware, that their third eye is now activated. This is completely false. In order to activate your third eye, you simply have to do this one thing, which many people cannot do because we've been programmed not to. It is called visualization, imagination. Your imagination
is a screen in your mind. It is the access to the astral plane. And this is what we call in the occult and secret societies call imagination, spirit vision. It is the ability to see beyond the physical world, see into the spiritual world, which is simply the astral plane, your imagination. If you cannot use your imagination, you cannot vividly see something in your mind's eye, then your third eye is not active. Third eye is your spiritual vision into the astral plane. To activate the third eye, you simply have to gain a strong willpower and direct the force of the mind to focus the light of your consciousness into an astral form. Visualization is your biggest power when you die. And in fact, when you dream, you're using your imagination subconsciously. Freemasons always symbolize this coffin at the bottom of their artwork. This coffin represents unconsciousness, with the star representing you. You are a star, a being of light. It represents unconsciousness, lack of awareness. It's a condition in which we do not even recognize that we have consciousness. We take it for granted. We never stop to ask what it is, where it came from, or what our purpose actually is to have this consciousness. In this unconscious state, you have no personal power. Your mind is passive and highly influenced by the external world. We are easily shaped by collective thought patterns, cultural beliefs, media, institutions, and social pressures. Because we lack inner awareness, we lack discernment. And this is the state we must use the spade to dig ourselves out of. We need to dig ourselves out of this spiritual deadness, not realizing we live in two worlds, an inner world of forces of energies and consciousness, thoughts, emotions, and an outer world, a material world, a body. We need to dig ourselves out of this spiritual deadness and recognize the forces of consciousness within us that shape our material life. And when we reconstruct our inner world, we can start to reconstruct our external world, because the inner world mirrors the external world.
Most people are satanic without even realizing. This symbol is the symbol for the satanic cult called the Skull and Bones Society. The skull is where thought takes place. This represents thought. The bones take action for the physical body. This represents thought and action. Act what we think. But notice there is something missing. We're missing emotional symbolism. There is no emotion. This is what a true Satanist is. If you create reality with only thought and action, without emotion, empathy, and the care for one another, then you are a Satanist. Satanist is not someone who worships the devil. The Twin Towers are an 11. Drake's album, we see the 11, the two pillars again. French Montana, Rick Ross, we see the symbolism again with the checkered floor. The twin pillars represent the Freemasonic Yakin and Boaz pillars. They represent an entrance, a doorway to higher consciousness. Yakin with the moon on top represents feminine qualities of consciousness. The right brain, the internal world of emotion and intuition. The right pillar with the sun on top represents masculine qualities, physical body, the physical action, thought, and the external world outside of us. In order to reach higher consciousness, we have to merge the feminine and masculine qualities of our consciousness. The left and the right brain need to become one in order to perceive reality. Our intuition, feminine pillar, needs to be one with our action, so we take action on what is good at all times. Freemasonry is a craft. The word mason means to build. This craft is all about crafting a better heart and mind, to align our consciousness with a higher understanding. This pillar represents a door, and when we enter the door, it represents entering within ourselves. It's a journey inward to find out what we truly are, not the body, but as pure consciousness. And the way you do this is
Kanye West, the front cover of Power, is using the symbol of a sword and a crown. Freemasons use this symbol of the sword. We see this in 21 Savage on the front cover of No Heart, a sword or dagger going through a heart-like structure. The Freemasons symbolize the same thing, the heart and a sword. This sword swings through the air. The sword is symbolic of the mind and intellect because the sword swings through the air. The air Air corresponds with the mind, water corresponds with emotion, fire corresponds with the spirit, and earth corresponds with the physical body. So we're looking at the intellect and emotion. 21 Savage is merging the intellect with emotion. In Masonic traditions, merging the intellect with the heart is a necessary process to reach a higher understanding of self and to navigate in the physical world. The sword is also a symbol of power, not external power, but mental power, gaining mastery over the self. The sword does not stay sharp forever. This is symbolic of the mind. If you do not keep on top of the mind with constant refinement of meditation, affirmations, then the mind will fall back into old thinking patterns and destroy the life of yours. So it's a symbol of gaining a powerful mind within the occult, hence why there is a crown. The crown represents control and royalty. So we're looking at control over the mind, gaining full control over our consciousness and thoughts. We live in a mental universe. We do not control the mind, then your reality will become shambles. In this image, we see Eminem inside of a coffin. This is not a coincidence. This coffin represents the Master Mason. We see it in Freemasonic artwork at the bottom. This coffin or tomb represents spiritual deadness. It represents an unconscious state of living where one takes life for granted and is inside of an ignorant mindset. They don't even realize they possess consciousness. They've never looked within themselves. They've never connected with who they actually are as pure consciousness. It's the unconscious state before you spiritually woken up. On this artwork, we see a skull and bones. When you're inside the coffin, you are the skull and bones. You only think and act. Action carried out by the bones and thinking carried out by the skull. There's no emotional symbolism. You're not connected with your spirit, your emotions. Your emotions tell you what is right and wrong. So when you spiritually awaken and you realize you possess consciousness, you enter the checkered board. You realize you're in a divided state of mind consciousness, divided thought, emotion, action. You have no mental power. You're in an illusion and you realize the world around you is illusion. Once you realize you're on the chessboard, you wake up to the inner and outer world, the two pillars, and you merge them together, the feminine and masculine qualities of consciousness, to reach a higher insight, a higher understanding symbolized as the single eye. And the way we do this is
symbolism of the owl is present in the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. But what does this owl truly represent? We see this owl on the $1 bill hidden in the corner. We also see it at Bohemian Grove. Religions always have a threefold God. This is because they represent thought, emotion, action, the three generative forces that create reality. You hold complete control over these. The Father represents thought, the beginning and the cause of all creation. The Holy Spirit represents love energy, emotional care, care for one another, the self and the collective, love consciousness. And when we think with the love of the heart, we give birth to perfect action, which is Jesus, the Son, because action is a male force. So doves are associated with the feminine aspects of consciousness, true care for one another. The owl is nocturnal and heavily associated with the moon. The owl is the opposite of the white dove. It represents the darker side of the feminine aspects of consciousness. It represents only caring for the self. Emotions is what gives us actions. Why do you go to work? Because you care about paying the bills for your house. Care energy is what generates your experience outside you. You're watching this video because you care. If you lose care, you will scroll and carry on. So the owl is on the money because money is what makes the world go round. It is this false materialistic care energy that we have for money that controls our actions. It is a darker side of the feminine aspects of consciousness. That's not to say money is inherently evil, but this is what keeps the system alive and keeps people controlled through their actions. We see it at Bohemian Grove where satanic rituals are taking place because all the people at this place have satanic consciousness. They have the inverted care energy. They do not care for the collective, they care for themselves and their fellow brothers in the society. They only care about materialistic gain and self-serving. That's the invertation. That's the inverse of the true positive side of feminine consciousness.
The best place to hide the truth is in plain sight. Kodak Black is seen using Freemasonic symbolism in his album cover. Let's decode the symbolism. It's going to blow your mind. The square we see underneath the compass creates squares. Squares are limited, they are restricted, and the square tool is very rigid. This represents the lower mind, the lower aspects of human consciousness, survival, instinct. The compass we see on top creates circles. Circles are divine, they are oneness. It's one line, no edges. There's no beginning, no end. It's eternal. This represents the higher mind, the spiritual thoughts, higher versions of consciousness. The compass, which creates the circle, is on top of the square, representing the divine mind, the higher mind ruling over the lower instincts and lower thoughts. It's a symbol representing going from the lower mind to the higher mind. And we do that through the G. We go from the square to the compass. The G is inside of the compass, which symbolizes going within the self. If we are operating from lower instinctual consciousness and we want to achieve higher consciousness, we go through the G. The G is the generative principle. It represents the energy of the heart, what we care about. What we see in our external reality is because we care about it. You care about paying the bills and staying in your home, so you go to work and take action because you care. Everything in front of you is because your heart is taking you there through care. The body follows the heart. Action follows the heart. In order to go from lower nature to higher consciousness, we go through the care, the love energy of the heart. This is a symbol of self-mastery. Would you play Grand Theft Auto without knowing the buttons? You wouldn't. So why are you not mastering yourself? The buttons are thoughts and emotions. The shocking symbolism of Astroworld Travis Scott will blow your mind. The stage contains two pillars which represent the Freemasonic Yakin and Boaz pillars. The Freemasons use these pillars as a gateway, symbolizing a gateway to higher consciousness and understanding of self and reality. It represents entering a door, entering the Masonic degrees. And in Masonry, you learn the truth about consciousness. It's seen as a portal or a doorway. In the middle, we say, see you on the other side, between these two pillars, because this is the doorway to the other side. Now, what is the other side? Astro world sounds like astral world, and the word astral has star within it, and we see the star symbolism. The astral plane is the dimension that we use when we imagine something. It's the screen we have in our mind. This is an infinite dimension where thoughts take form. This is basically the plane we are a spirit in before we have this physical body. The physical world is shaped and molded by the imaginative plane. Everything in the physical came out of the imaginative. Travis Scott t-shirt has this portal symbolism, entering in the door and entering the other side. Me personally, I think this was a satanic ritual. Unfortunately, people died at this concert and they entered the other side into the astral plane where we go when we die. We can access the astral plane through astral projection, and the way you do this is symbolism of the owl is present in the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. But what does this owl truly represent? We see this owl on the $1 bill hidden in the corner. We also see it at Bohemian Grove. Religions always have a threefold God. This is because they represent thought, emotion, action, the three generative forces that create reality. You hold complete control over these. The Father represents thought, the beginning and the cause of all creation. The Holy Spirit represents love energy, emotional care, care for one another, the self and the collective, love consciousness. And when we think with the love of the heart, we give birth to perfect action, which is Jesus, the Son, because action is a male force. So doves are associated with the feminine aspects of consciousness, true care for one another. The owl is nocturnal nocturnal and heavily associated with the moon. The owl is the opposite of the white dove. It represents the darker side of the feminine aspects of consciousness. It represents only caring for the self. Emotions is what gives us actions. Why do you go to work? Because you care about paying the bills for your house. Care energy is what generates your experience outside you. You're watching this video because you care. If you lose care, you will scroll and carry on. So the owl is on the money because money is what then makes the world go round. It is this false materialistic care energy that we have for money that controls our actions. It is a darker side of the feminine aspects of consciousness. That's not to say money is inherently evil, but this is what keeps the system alive and keeps people controlled through their actions. We see it at Bohemian Grove, where satanic rituals are taking place because all the people at this place have satanic consciousness. They have the inverted care energy. They do not care for the collective, they care for themselves and their fellow brothers in the society. They only care about materialistic gain and self-serving. That's the invertation. That's the inverse of the true positive side of feminine consciousness. We always see Jesus do this hand gesture. What does it represent? The circle around Jesus' head represents the mind. Jesus is pulling back a robe and revealing the light of his heart. The head represents thought, the mental plane, and the heart represents emotion, true love and care. His fingers are crossed. There are two fingers. They're not separate. They're crossed over. They're unified. Jesus is telling us to unify thought with love and care, because this is how we create Christ consciousness and heaven on earth. If we think with the love and care of the heart unified, we give birth to perfect action in the world. And if everyone reached this state of consciousness, then we would live in heaven on earth. We would live in peace, unity within ourselves and the collective experience that we all share. The world today is in a mess because we only think and act. We have no love of the heart for one another. Jesus is telling us to reach unity consciousness, Christ consciousness. In my personal experience, when I take action on the feeling of doing good in my heart, it has led me to my life purpose. The heart is a spiritual guidance system, and if you act upon what feels good at all times, it takes you to your soul purpose and takes you to higher consciousness. This is why we say, follow your heart. Kanye West is seen with the 33rd degree double-headed eagle. We even see this in Grand Theft Auto on the submarine. The 33rd degree symbol is a complex symbol, many different symbols creating a more complex meaning. The sword represents the mind. It cuts through the air. Air corresponds with the mind. Fire is the spirit. Water is emotion. Earth is the body. The eagle looking left is looking into the past. The eagle looking right is looking into the future, representing analyzing the past to see what thought, emotions and actions has led you to this very point and what you can change now to create a better future. That's how you master time. The eagle is standing on top of the sword. It rules over the mind. It controls the mind, and the mind does not control it at this 33rd degree. The crown represents illumination. The crown chakra is open and allowing light energy from the higher self to be received, also representing self-mastery and control. It also represents unification over the left and the right, the masculine and feminine qualities. Intuition is aligned with action. The left and the right brain are unified and they are fully transformed at this 33rd degree in an upward triangle. The upward triangle represents fire, which is a very transformative element, represents full transformation of the mind through self-mastery and aligning the left and right hemispheres of the brain and mastering time. We see Beyonce with the black and white checkerboard at her shows. The Kim Kardashians standing on top of the black and white checkerboard. 6ix9ine's album cover is again with the black and white checkerboard. Even Michael Jackson. This is a Masonic artwork. This is what we call Freemasonic symbolism. It's a symbol that represents low consciousness, base level thinking, survival. There are black and white checkerboards on the floor. It's low down, representing the material world. When one is stuck in this thinking, they are you versus me thinking, divided. Their thoughts, emotions, actions are not aligned. They have no knowledge of their higher self and what they truly are beyond their human form. They use this symbolism in music so heavily because music is a tool to keep people stuck on a low-level consciousness, to keep people stuck in the illusion of the physical world. The black and white checkerboard is an illusion. This music keeps you divided, keeping you indulged in low-level pleasures, because that's what they rap and talk about. And the Freemasons are showing a stairway up from base level consciousness, representing a stairway to higher understanding. And the way we do this is... You want to know how deep I've gone into the rabbit hole? I think these ancient paintings of Jesus are showing us higher dimensions. I've personally had astral projection, out-of-body experiences. I understand the physical world is an effect of our consciousness. The physical world is literally the lowest dimension that exists. Everything in the physical world came out of these higher dimensions. We think something. Thought is a mental dimension. We imagine things after we think. And this imaginative realm is the astral plane we go to when we dream. We can also access this plane consciously during astral projection. Everything in the physical plane was pulled out of this higher dimension, the imagination, and then turned into physical reality. So the astral plane is the screen we have in our mind to use to imagine. And these ancient paintings of Jesus are showing Jesus in the sky floating. This knowledge of accessing the heavenly realms, which is the astral plane, was heavily guarded in the ancient times and still is today. Down here we have the physical dimension, up here we have the astral dimension. Astral projection in the ancient times was the way to become a god, when you had the ability to access the heavenly realms of the celestial kingdoms that exist beyond the physical dimension. This ability to ascend gave you access to infinite realities. Not to mention the white robe Jesus is wearing. White represents purity, spirit. Black represents physical matter. I think these paintings are showing us access to the heavenly realms, to astral projection. However, it's just being concealed behind religious dogma, but the paintings reveal the truth. Hopscotch is a game we play as a child, and it has an occult meaning. The diagram we use for hopscotch is identical to the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. The Kabbalistic Tree of Life is both a diagram and a path that illustrates how consciousness can expand from Earth-based five senses awareness, using consciousness to only operate in the physical world for the five senses and survival. That's represented by Malkuth, this bottom sphere, or the number 1. Base level consciousness and thinking. However, consciousness has the potential to expand beyond its limited state. The conscious mind can ascend and come to know and understand the hidden aspects of reality, which is symbolized climbing the tree through a spiritual occult process. Each sphere represents a different level of awareness, understanding, and realization of the self, and we can use the tree to ascend back up to higher consciousness, to the source, which is the top sphere, Kether. Hopscotch is a game as a child where we hop to each number until we reach the end. It's symbolic of this process in the occult of reaching higher states of consciousness. We even see this in ancient Christianity. This is a painting in Rennes, Rome, revealing the Kabbalistic Tree of Life inside of the painting. It's said that all religion originates from this ancient teaching. It's a blueprint on how the consciousness turns into physical reality and how we can transform our consciousness from a physical understanding to a spiritual understanding. Let me know what you think. Drake is seen with 666 symbolism all the time. We literally see this everywhere. 666 is 3 sixes. The number 3 represents the 3 aspects of creation, or the 3 expressions of consciousness. Consciousness expresses itself through thoughts, emotions, and physical actions. This is how we create in the world, and these create our state of being in the world. The number 6 represents represents the physical 3D dimension. We are inside a cube, a six-sided world. We can either move forwards, backwards, left, right, upwards, and down. 6 represents the physical dimension, hence why God in the Bible finished physical creation on the 6th day and rested on the 7th. Therefore, 666 is when our consciousness is only giving thoughts, emotions, and actions to the material world. It represents base level consciousness, surviving, satanic consciousness, only caring about the material world, the wealth, the fame, and external validation. This is why we see so much famous people giving this symbolism. The Holy Grail is always depicted in Christian artwork. It's a cup with a light source sitting on top of it, which looks identical to the human neck and the skull. The light source being the third eye, or the seat of consciousness in the brain. The Knights Templars and many medieval myths talk about the quest to find the Holy Grail, this sacred object. But again, the myth holds an esoteric truth. The journey to find the Holy Grail is a spiritual journey inward to find knowledge of self. Light is a massive symbol in occultism and Freemasonry. Light represents knowledge, information, hence why the Illuminati are called Illuminati, illumination of the self. It's knowledge of self. Seeking the Holy Grail is symbolic of seeking what you truly are beyond your human form. Seeking the light within, a spiritual journey of going inward. When we close our eyes, we are in darkness, and this inner knowledge of self is what lights up the darkness within us, and we realize deeper aspects of ourselves. There are a few techniques, there are a few methods which help us realize more.